Alma Angeles, we're moving to the next stage of the pandemic, and as the world resets to the new normal, we find ourselves seeking the right balance between health and livelihood, constantly adjusting the boundaries between liberty and responsibility. And now to the news. Thank you, Ambassador, from the bottom of our heart. That is more than friendship, that's plain pure partnership. Japan has our back. That is according to Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. on a tweet on Tuesday following the exchange of diplomatic notes on a 50 billion yen loan package from Japan. In a report of the Business Mirror, the loan said that the loan aims to support the country's fight against the pandemic and its quick recovery from other natural and health-related disasters. Locsin and Japanese Ambassador Koji Haneda led the exchange rites at the Department of Foreign Affairs Mabini Hall. In a subsequent ceremony at the Department of Finance, Japanese Ambassador Haneda said, as a calamity-prone country like the Philippines, Japan fully understands the value of safeguarding lives, infrastructure, and livelihood. Ambassador Haneda also said that Filipinos can count on Japan to remain responsive to the call of times as a true friend closer than a brother. He added what we have persistently built together during the time of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, we will also continue to sustain under Japan's new leadership with the utmost support of everyone. He said we will bring Japan-Philippines partnership on to the next level. In July, the Philippines and Japan also exchanged notes on the COVID-19 crisis response emergency support loan, also in support of the Philippine efforts to combat and recover from COVID-19. Now, Japan's parliament has elected Yoshihide Suga as its new prime minister, replacing Shinzo Abe after his surprise resignation last month due to the illness. Joining us live from Japan is Dennis Lu. Dennis.
Hello, Alma. Good evening to you and to all our televiewers. Japan's parliament on Wednesday elected Yoshihide Suga as prime minister. The former chief cabinet secretary is expected to stick closely to policies championed by Shinzo Abe during his record-breaking tenure. Suga, 71, won an easy victory, taking 314 votes of 462 valid ballots cast in the lower house of parliament, where his ruling Liberal Democratic Party holds a commanding majority with its coalition partner. Suga has said he will prioritize keeping coronavirus infections under control and kickstarting Japan's economy, and has promised to continue Abe's key policy programs. Suga's new cabinet was announced shortly after the vote. Several ministers kept their jobs, though, including Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi and Finance Minister Taro Aso. Mr. Shinzo Abe's brother Nobuo Kishi, who was adopted by his uncle as a child and carries his surname, is the new defense minister. He replaced Taro Kono. Taro Kono is now the administrative reform minister. Abe formally resigned earlier Wednesday along with his cabinet, ending his record run in office with a year left in his mandate. He was forced out by a recurrence of ulcerative colitis, a bowel disease that has long plagued him. Upbringing as the son of a strawberry farmer father and school teacher mother sets him apart from Japan's many blue blood political elites. But while he has championed some measures intended to help rural areas like his hometown in northern Japan's Akita, his political views remain something of a mystery. He is viewed as more pragmatic than ideological, and during his campaign spoke more about the need for administrative reforms than any grand guiding principles. Suga has said kickstarting the economy, which was already in recession before the pandemic, will be a top priority along with containing the virus. essential if the postponed Tokyo 2020 Olympics are to open as planned in July 2021. Back to you, Alma.
All right, thank you very much, Dennis, for your updates there in Japan.
Thank you very much, Alma, reporting live from Tokyo, Japan. This is Dennis Liu. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, Japan's former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe left his office as officials, staff, and his successor, Yoshihide Suga, saw him off. Abe, the longest-serving Prime Minister of Japan, had to resign due to his health problems after 7 years and 8 months in office. Let's take a look. Now, Vietnam is to resume some international commercial flights. Joining us live from Vietnam is Charlene Navaja. Charlene.
Good evening.
Good evening,
and good
Charlene.
evening to everyone. Yes. So that's right. Vietnam said it will resume international commercial flights to and from 6 Asian destinations months after a suspension due to the coronavirus. According to a statement on a government website, flights in and out of the southern Chinese city of Gwangju, Tokyo, Seoul, and Taipei would resume Tuesday. From September 22, flights to and from Phnom Penh and Vientiane will also begin again. However, the flights are reserved for Vietnamese nationals, diplomats, experts, managers, skilled workers, investors, and their families. They are not yet available for tourists. So anyone coming in will have to take a COVID test before boarding and on arrival. Vietnam suspended international commercial flights to and from China in February as COVID-19 quickly spread across the country. Most other international destinations were included in the suspension by March. A small number of foreign diplomats and business people have been allowed to enter Vietnam on repatriation and chartered flights, but were subject to a strict 2-week quarantine in state facilities or in a government-chosen hotel. The government is now considering whether to shorten the quarantine period, as the statement said. So the announcement came as Hanoi authorities said they would allow bars and karaoke parlors to reopen on Wednesday after they were forced to close for the second time during the Da Nang outbreak. Vietnam has reported just 1,063 cases and 35 deaths after an aggressive public health response involving mass quarantines and a robust track and trace regime. So Vietnam, which has a population of 95 million, has been widely lauded for its handling of the pandemic and went nearly 100 days without recording a locally transmitted infection until July. So an outbreak that month in the beach resort of Da Nang put the country back on high alert. But it has once again gone almost 2 weeks without a locally transmitted case. Back to you, Alma.
Hi, thank you very much for your time, Charlene, and looking forward to more updates there in Vietnam as we follow this coronavirus situation in your area. Thank you.
Thank you, and have a great night, Alma.
Thank you.
So this has been Charlene Navaja reporting live from Hanoi, Vietnam. We live in interesting times.
And elsewhere in the Asia-Pacific region, India's total coronavirus cases passed 5 million on Wednesday, according to Health Ministry data, as the pandemic extends its grip on the vast country at an ever faster rate. With its latest 1 million cases recorded in just 11 days, a world record, India now has 5.02 million infections. Only the United States has more, with 6.59 million. Now, India has for some time been recording the world's biggest daily jumps in cases. And on Wednesday, the rise was just over 90,000 with a record 1,290 deaths. While India took 167 days to reach 1 million cases, the next million came in just 21 days, faster than the U.S. and Brazil, according to the Times of India. Just 29 days later, India became only the third country after the U.S. and Brazil to post 4 million infections. India passed Brazil earlier this month. Even so, and with India now testing around 1 million people daily, many experts say that this is not enough and that the true number of infections may be far higher. Eagle News will be right back.
The New Era University, in its 45th year of excellence, discipline, and service to humanity, will offer online education all levels beginning this first semester academic year 2020 to 2021 through the NEU Virtual Learning Environment, or NEU VLE. New Era University offers a complete basic education cycle from kindergarten up to senior high school, offering all strands. NEU has 18 colleges, and 2 graduate schools. It also offers ALS and ETF. Best of all, NEU has the most affordable tuition fees among private universities in the Philippines. NEU is at Quezon City, the city of San Fernando, Pampanga, General Santos City, South Cotabato, Lipa City, Batangas, and Pinugay, Baras, Rizal. New Era University is under the stewardship of Dr. Dilo L. Rosas. What are you waiting for? Be part of the new normal. Enroll now. Classes start on October 5, 2020.
A major fire that has been raging outside Los Angeles for more than a week threatened to engulf a historic observatory and billion-dollar broadcast towers on Tuesday as firefighters struggled to contain the flames. The so-called Bobcat fire was within 500 feet from the 116-year-old Mount Wilson Observatory, according to the U.S. Forest Service in a tweet, while fire officials said crews were in place, ready to receive the fire. Officials at the observatory said in a tweet late Monday that all personnel had been evacuated as the fire was knocking on our door. It said they are in a firefight right now because it is so close, according to LA County Fire Captain David Dentic, to the Los Angeles Times, referring to crews positioned at Mount Wilson. He said the fire, located about 16 miles northeast of downtown Los Angeles, had grown to more than 40,000 acres. KNX Radio said the fire was also threatening broadcast towers in the area worth more than $1 billion. Many communities threatened by the flames have been ordered to stand ready to evacuate, while some 80 historic cabins located within Los Angeles forest were feared destroyed, according to officials. Meanwhile, Iraida Rodas had to leave her home behind when the Almeida fire hit the trailer park where she and her family had been living for 12 years. In Talent, Oregon last week. Now, as she comes back for the first time, the preschool teacher discovers what remains of what was once her home. Take a look.
I just feel like I lose, all my family's effort, emptiness, sad, worried. I never thought that I was going to destroy my house and my siblings. There's two more, my brother who lives in Phoenix, he lost his house too, and my sister. So 3 of us, we lost our house.
This fire was a combination wildland and urban conflagration kind of fire. So it spread not only through the greenway, which is the wildland fire, also through the buildings where the fire was going from home to home, house to house, business to business. It's actually around 42,000 people have been affected by this. Now, this not only includes people who are affected who used to live inside the fire area, who may have had a home damaged, or because it's a level 3 area, evacuation zone, and they can't get back to their homes, but that also includes the level 2 areas where people may have left.
Meanwhile, smoke from the fires devastating swathes of the U.S. West Coast has reached as far as Europe. The European Union's Climate Monitoring Service said Wednesday in its assessment of the unprecedented blazes. Satellite data from the Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Service, or CAMS, showed that the wildfires currently raging across California, Oregon, and Washington states are tens to hundreds of times more intense than the recent average. Thanks to strong pressure systems, the smoke from the fires was trapped along the western part of North America for days, making for potentially dangerous air quality in major cities such as Portland, Oregon, and Vancouver and San Francisco. CAM said that it had tracked the long-range transport of smoke particles from the fires as far as 8,000 kilometers to the east, reaching northern Europe. It estimated that the blazes, which are significantly more likely to occur as the planet warms, have spewed out more than 30 million tons of carbon dioxide since mid-August. In Geneva, the World Meteorological Organization said that the Northern Hemisphere has just had its hottest summer and warmest August on record. Joining us live from Geneva, here's Jim Hippolito. Jim.
Hello, good evening.
Good
It has
evening,
been
Jim.
a while.
Yes, it has been a while. Good to see you back.
Thank you for having me back. Just on my record of northern heat, serious concerns over U.S. wildfire destruction. The Northern Hemisphere has just had its hottest summer and warmest August on record, the World Meteorological Organization, WMO, said on Tuesday. Confirmation of the scorching condition comes amid ongoing devastating wildfires on the U.S. West Coast. Data from the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, shows that from June to August, temperatures are 2.11 degrees Fahrenheit, 1.17 degrees Celsius above average. According to WMO spokesperson Claire Nunes, the 5 warmest summers for the Northern Hemisphere have happened since 2015. Let's listen in.
The Northern Hemisphere just had its hottest summer on record. It also had its hottest August on record. This is according to figures which released last night by the US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Heat has contributed to a very, very destructive fire season. As we know, the states of California, Oregon, and Washington have been worst hit. Entire neighborhoods razed to the ground, forcing the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of people and tragically causing casualties. August 2020 was the 44th consecutive August and the 428th consecutive month with temperatures above the 20th century average. The 10 warmest Augusts on record have all occurred since 1998.
Globally, August was the second warmest on record at 1.69 Fahrenheit or 0.94 Celsius above the 20th century average of 60.1 Fahrenheit, 15.6 Celsius. The 2020 fire season on the west coast of the USA has also been record-breaking in its scale, with some 16,000 firefighters involved in the effort to protect people and towns in California alone. In addition to fatalities and destruction, the fires have impacted air quality for millions of people and turned skies orange, impacting even New York on Tuesday on the East Coast. News also warned that the U.S. National Hurricane Center issued advisories for no less than 5 tropical cyclones over the Atlantic Basin, tying with the record for the highest number of tropical cyclones there at one time. The 2020 Atlantic hurricane season is so active that it is expected to exhaust the regular list of storm names, the WMO spokesperson said. She added that if this happens, the Greek alphabet will be used for only the second time on record. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much, Jim, for your updates there. And looking forward to more updates there in the United Nations in Geneva. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Alma. Reporting live from Geneva, Switzerland. This is Jim Hippolito, and we live in interesting times.
Indeed. Now, as Jim said, the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season is so active that it has nearly exhausted the regular list of storm names. Now, if this happens, the Greek alphabet will be used for only the second time on record. Let's listen in.
Yes, good morning, everybody. We're running out of hurricane names. The 2020 Atlantic hurricane season has been so active that it's expected to exhaust the regular list of hurricane names. If this happens, and it's very close to happening, the Greek alphabet will be used. It's only the second time on record that we've had to resort to the Greek alphabet. On Monday, the U.S. National Hurricane Center was issuing advisories for 5, no less than 5 tropical cyclones over the Atlantic Basin. This ties the record for the most number of tropical cyclones in that basin at one time. It was last set on in September 1971. Since last night, one of these named storms has weakened. It's disappeared. That one's Rene. But we still have Hurricane Paulette, which on Monday had its entire eye over the island of Bermuda. It was really quite impressive to see it on the satellite images. Hurricane Sally, which is the tropical cyclone that is attracting the most attention, and it is feared that this is a dangerous hurricane when it will make landfall in the Gulf of Mexico, bringing with it life-threatening storm surge and hurricane force winds. So that's Hurricane Sally, expected to make landfall later today or tomorrow. The other 2 named storms we have at the moment, Tropical Storm Teddy and Tropical Storm Vicky, which are quite far out in the ocean. And another area of low pressure has formed near Cabo Verde and has a 50% chance of becoming a named storm. So once that happens and we exhaust the last name on the list, which is Wilfred, we then have to switch to the Greek alphabet. And so you will start to see names such as Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, etc.
And Hurricane Sally barreled into the U.S. Gulf Coast early on Wednesday with forecasts of drenching rains that could provoke historic and potentially deadly flash floods. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey had declared a state of emergency ahead of Sally's arrival. Let's listen in.
Hurricane Sally is not to be taken for granted. We are looking at record flooding, perhaps breaking historic levels. And with rising water comes a greater risk for loss of property and life. Sally has the potential to inflict major damage along our Gulf Coast and even further northward as it moves. For that reason, and especially for those living south of I-10 and in low-lying areas, I urge you in the strongest way possible to evacuate if conditions permit and seek shelter elsewhere as possible today. While the middle and northern sections of our state will obviously not see the storm surge of the coastal regions, please be aware, however, that heavy rains, flash flooding, and even tornadoes can develop at any point tonight or tomorrow. I remind you to stay tuned to your local weather source, have a weather radio handy, and some extra batteries in case you lose power, and please heed the advice of your local leaders.
The National Hurricane Center said the Category 2 storm hit Gulf Shores, Alabama at about 4:45 a.m. local time, bringing maximum sustained winds of about 105 miles per hour. Historic life-threatening flooding likely along portions of the northern Gulf Coast, according to the Miami-based center, had warned that late Tuesday, adding that the hurricane could dump up to 20 inches of rain in some areas. About 75,000 homes in Alabama and Florida were already without power on Tuesday evening, according to the Weather Channel, and video posted to social media appeared to show some areas had started to flood. Sally had been a crawling pace of 2 miles per hour, but was expected to pick up speed through Wednesday. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves had also declared a state of emergency ahead of the approaching storm. He also said the storm surge projections were worrisome, with anywhere from 5 to 8 feet of coastal surge. Governor John Bell Edwards of Louisiana, which is still recovering after Hurricane Laura made landfall in the state as a Category 4 storm, told residents Monday to be prepared. He tweeted, "Be smart and be safe." And other environment news, only 6 out of 20 global goals to protect natural biodiversity have been achieved. Natural experts have warned ahead of the organization's Nature Summit on September 30. Biodiversity is declining at unprecedented rates, according to the latest Global Biodiversity Outlook report from the UN Convention on Biological Diversity. It is urging heads of state attending the summit to adopt radical changes to ensure human well-being and that of the planet. Now, these include adopting sustainable agriculture and food systems and adding green space to cities. Now, despite the lack of overall success in protecting nature, there has been progress in many biodiversity targets that were agreed by the international community in Japan in 2010. These include in reducing the amount of forest cut down, controlling overfishing, and protecting island species from non-native invasive intruders. David Cooper, Deputy Executive Secretary of the UN Biodiversity Convention, said that numbers of bird and mammal extinctions that have occurred over the past 10 years would have been up to 4 times higher without the actions that have already been taken. Eagle News will be right back.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
It says the best defense is still containment.
We are in
an uncharted territory.
I told you 450. That's why you want to 100%. Construction.
The biggest and widest talent competition in Philippine television continues with over 7 million pesos in cash prizes. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2. 3 winners will be chosen in each category. Singing category, second runner-up will receive 500,000 pesos. First runner-up will receive 1 million pesos. And for the grand champion, 2 million pesos. Dance category, second runner-up will receive 500,000 pesos. First runner-up will receive 1 million pesos. And for the grand champion, 2 million pesos. Audition now. Send your 3-minute performance video to tagisananggaling@gmail.com. For inquiries, call Nikki at 0977-651-9504 or 8784-7450, local 1363. Shane at 0995-880-8004 or 8784-7450, local 1415. Don't forget to like and follow Tagisan ng Galing's Facebook fan page and subscribe to Tagisan ng Galing's YouTube channel for more announcements. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is presented by Eagle Broadcasting Corporation and Net25.
We now turn to the White House lawn, where the signing of the first Arab-Israeli agreement in a quarter century as Israel normalizes relations with Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates. Bahrain and the UAE are the first Arab nations to establish relations with Israel since Egypt in 1979 and Jordan in 1994. And President Trump hailed it as a historic day for peace. Take a look.
In Israel's entire history, there have previously been only 2 such agreements. Now we have achieved 2 in a single month. Together, these agreements will serve as the foundation for a comprehensive peace across the entire region, something which nobody thought was possible, certainly not in this day and age, maybe in many decades from now, but one founded on shared interests, mutual respect, and friendship.
Let us rise above any political divide. Let us put all cynicism aside. Let us feel, on this day, the pulse of history. For long after the pandemic is gone, the peace we make today will endure.
سلام ومنك السلام. فالبحث عن السلم مبدأ أصيل، ولكن المبادئ تتحقق فعلا عندما تتحول إلى أفعال. وها نحن اليوم نشهد فعلا سوف يغير الشرق الأوسط وسيبعث الأمل حول العالم.
We have shown today that such a path is possible, even realistic. What was only dreamed of a few years ago is now achievable.
As the accords were being signed in Washington, rockets meanwhile were being fired into Israel from the Gaza Strip, injuring 2 people and prompting Israeli airstrikes on the territory. Now, for the Middle East, the deals mark a distinct shift in a decades-old status quo where Arab countries have tried to maintain unity against Israel over its treatment of the stateless Palestinians. Meanwhile, Iran's President Hassan Rouhani warns of consequences for Gulf states, normalizing relations with Israel after Bahrain and UAE formally established full ties with the Jewish state. But however, President Trump predicted that Iran, a regional rival to Bahrain and the UAE, would seek to make a deal with the United States if he is reelected. All the four countries at the White House share a common hostility to Iran, which President Trump has put under crippling economic and diplomatic pressure. Meanwhile, the UAE has been using the negotiations as part of its campaign to pressure Washington to sell it the cutting-edge F-35 warplanes. President Trump said Tuesday he was willing to sell the warplanes to the UAE despite Israeli opposition. The World Trade Organization has upheld a complaint by China over additional U.S. duties on some $250 billion of Chinese goods, a decision that sparked outrage in Washington. The Geneva-based body has been caught in the middle of trade tensions between the U.S. and China and has faced relentless attacks from President Trump. The tariffs imposed in 2018 marked the beginning of the trade war between the world's two largest economies. But a panel of experts set up by WTO's dispute settlement body last year to review the U.S. move ruled Tuesday the tariffs on Chinese goods were inconsistent with global trade rules and recommended the U.S. bring its measures into conformity with its obligations. The decision was met with ire in the U.S., with Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer saying it proved that the WTO is completely inadequate to stop China's harmful technology practices. But Beijing welcomed the move as an objective and fair ruling. Usually, parties unhappy with the panel decision can appeal within 60 days. The global recession this year will not be as deep as expected as a result of countries' efforts to counter the economic fallout from the coronavirus pandemic. That is according to the OECD. But the recovery next year will also be more modest than anticipated, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, projecting a contraction of 4.5% in global economic output this year and a return to growth of roughly 5% in 2021. In its previous set of forecasts in June, the Paris-based OECD had been expecting the global economy to shrink by 6% in 2020 and return to growth of 5.2% next year. Now, the OECD said, quote, after the initial bounce back in many activities following the easing of confinement measures, there are some signs from high-frequency indicators and business surveys that the pace of the global recovery has lost momentum since June, particularly in many advanced economies. It pointed out, however, that the economic outlook remains exceptionally uncertain, with the COVID-19 pandemic continuing to exert a substantial toll on economies and societies. Silicon Valley tech giant Oracle is very close to sealing a deal to become the U.S. partner to Chinese-owned video app TikTok to avert a ban in the U.S., according to President Trump. Now, President Trump's comments came a day after U.S. officials confirmed that Oracle was set to make a deal with TikTok parent ByteDance ahead of a deadline set by the U.S. president, who has called the app a national security threat.
Well, we're going to make a decision pretty soon. I have a high respect for Larry Ellison. He's somebody I know. He's been really a terrific guy for a long time. So we're going to take a look. I heard they're very close to a deal, and we'll be looking at the TikTok deal with Larry Ellison and Oracle.
Now, details of the deal remained unclear, but the Financial Times reported that ByteDance was to place TikTok's global business in a new U.S.-headquartered company, with Oracle investing as a minority shareholder along with other U.S. investors. CNBC, meanwhile, reported that the Trump administration could approve the deal later on Tuesday. The TikTok saga has seen several twists, with Microsoft seen initially as the suitor before its bid was rejected. Chinese authorities have said they would not allow ByteDance to sell the algorithms used by TikTok, which are believed to hold much of the value for the popular social platform. A national security panel was expected to be meeting Tuesday to review the plan. Conservative Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri urged the panel to reject the deal unless it makes a clean break from China. Other analysts said the deal appears dubious because it would give a popular social platform to a Trump ally. And as U.S. Election Day looms, the race to the White House circles around key battleground states. Former Vice President campaigned in Florida, his first visit to the state since being nominated, and there he delivered harsh words for President Trump.
I won't say get angry. Quite frankly, it makes me very upset the way he gets in front of a camera and crows about how much he has done for veterans and then turns around and insults our service members and fallen heroes when the camera's off. Calls them suckers and losers. My son, he's gone now, but he was no sucker. He was a man like many of the people he served with, women and men, who served with him, served in a way that they should be honored as heroes, not in some derogatory way. They didn't come home losers. They came home heroes. Donald Trump has no idea about the ideas that animate women and men who sign up to serve. Duty, honor, country. That's what service and patriotism is all about. Duty, honor, country.
Now, the former vice president is polling ahead in Florida, but only marginally with 48.2% of the vote compared to Trump's 47%, according to the latest polling average by Real Clear Politics. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen warned against the destruction of the international system, saying in her annual State of the Union address that it needs reform. She also argues against vaccine nationalism in this time of COVID-19. Take a look.
By destruction of our... We have all seen the forecasts. We can expect our economies to start moving again after a 12% drop in GDP in the second quarter. But as the virus lingers, so does the uncertainty here in Europe and around the world. So this is definitely not the time to withdraw support. And just this month, the European Union joined the COVAX Global Facility and contributed €400 million to help ensure that safe vaccines are available not only for those who can afford it, but for everyone who needs it. Because we know vaccine nationalism puts lives at risk. Only vaccine cooperation saves lives. Our global system has grown into a creeping paralysis. Major powers are either pulling out or they're taking the institutions hostage for their own interests. And neither road will lead anywhere. Yes, we need change, but we need change by design and not by destruction of our international system.
In other news, firefighters said explosions and a huge fire ripped through the port area of the Italian city of Ancona early Wednesday, destroying warehouses and lorries, but there were no casualties. The flames created vast mushroom clouds of smoke in the city on Italy's Adriatic coast. The explosion sparked the fire shortly after midnight. The fire service said on Twitter the blaze was under control by Wednesday morning after the intervention of 16 firefighting teams. It wasn't clear yet what caused the explosions. Warehouses in the area were likely to have stored flammable liquid according to Rai News, which said there was a company nearby that produced liquid nitrogen as well as a power station and methane plant. As the smell of burning filled Ancona, the capital of the Marche region, the council said it had temporarily ordered closed all schools, the university, the parks, open-air sports facilities. Relatives of Breonna Taylor, a black woman killed in a police shooting in her own home, announced Tuesday they have settled their wrongful death suit with the U.S. city of Louisville for $12 million, as well as promises of local law enforcement reforms. The civil settlement was substantial and relatively quick, reflecting the public pressure and emotion surrounding the case of the 26-year-old, which became a rallying cry for the Black Lives Matter movement.
As significant as today is, it's only the beginning of getting full justice for Breonna. We must not lose focus on what the real job is. And with that being said, it's time to move forward with the criminal charges because she deserves that and much more. So please continue to say her name, Breonna Taylor.
Now, Taylor was killed when 3 plainclothes police officers executing a no-knock search warrant burst into her apartment late at night. Taylor's boyfriend, who was in bed with her, grabbed a gun and exchanged fire with the officers. He later said he thought they were criminals. The officers, who had not activated their body cams as required, shot Taylor 8 times, killing her. A police sergeant was also wounded. Now, this agreement signals an end to the civil proceedings, but not to the criminal investigation, which has yet to lead to any charges 6 months after Taylor's death. The 3 said they had announced themselves before entering. They later filed an after-action report that was found to be rife with errors. The raid was carried out simultaneously with a handful of others targeting Taylor's ex-boyfriend, an alleged narcotics dealer, but Taylor had broken up with him months before. Taylor's family filed a civil complaint in April seeking redress, claiming that the search warrant was in error and that the officers had fired blindly and without due diligence. One of the 3 officers, Brett Hankison, has been fired and the other 2 were suspended. The city has also banned no-knock warrants. The case has sparked international outrage and earned celebrity attention. And on a lighter note, no travel, no problem. Thailand is offering experiences for travel lovers stuck on terra firma. Take a look.
เหมือนได้ไปเที่ยวได้มานั่งได้แบบว่าเหมือนมากับครอบครัวมากับแฟนมากับญาติพี่น้องอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะก็ทำให้เหมือนแบบได้ไปเที่ยวในสถานที่อีกสถานที่หนึ่งปกติเป็นคนเดินทางท่องเที่ยวเยอะอยู่แล้วแต่พอถูกบังคับให้อยู่บ้านเนี่ยหรือว่าสายการบินเนี่ยมันยังไม่สามารถบินได้เนี่ยทำให้เราค่อนข้างห่อเหี่ยวเนาะแต่การที่เรามีบรรยากาศในการทานข้าวแบบเครื่องบินบ้างก็ทำให้ผ่อนคลายความคิดถึงตรงนั้นไป
Now, with millions around the world stuck at home due to the pandemic, plain cafes in Thailand are offering customers the chance to pretend that they are in the sky, and the idea seems to have taken off. On board the retired commercial airplane in the coastal city of Pattaya, coffee drinkers make themselves comfy on first-class style seats and pose for photos by the overhead lockers. Boarding passes in hand, some passengers even opt for the tour of the cockpit. In another cafe at the headquarters of national carrier Thai Airways in Bangkok, hungry diners also appear to even to have missed plain food as they gobble up spaghetti carbonara and Thai-style beef served on plastic trays by cabin crew. Thailand was the first country outside China to detect a coronavirus case, but it has since registered a low toll with about 3,400 infections and 58 deaths. Travel restrictions have nevertheless eviscerated the tourism-reliant economy, while Thais have found themselves stuck due to the quarantine requirements in other countries. The government is currently mulling travel bubbles with select countries that also have low tolls. And before we close, we leave you with a word of hope. At the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. See you again tomorrow evening. Good night. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.